My background is in visual arts and behavioral neuroscience. I worked as an analyst for a long time, and now I'm a high-performance computing consultant with the Compute Canada Federation. Through the partnership with the Carpentries and Compute Canada, I've taken on one of the roles of the administrator, so I do a lot of the adding new events to the database and helping manage those. So we also have John Simpson here, who can go ahead and introduce himself.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, depending where you are in our great country. I'm John Simpson. I'm the second administrator in Canada for the Carpentries, also part of the Compute Canada Federation or family. James looks after a lot of the regular events. If there's additional coordination, we need to find instructors. That's usually me that does it. I'm also one of 2 carpentry instructors in Canada that will deliver Carpentries training to people in Canada, but elsewhere too. The other one is actually with us today, and that's Danielle Quinn. And we can pass over to her to do the next introduction. Probably works out well that way.
Sure. Hello. Yeah, my name is Danielle Quinn. I'm also a trainer for the Carpentries, and I'm a PhD student at Memorial University in Newfoundland. So yeah, really excited to have a whole bunch of people from Canada or working in Canada in the same room.
Thanks.
Yeah, and so maybe now we just go through the list of names as they appear on the sheet. So that'd be Karina, if Karina is here.
Hi, I'm Karina Thompson. I'm a PhD student at UBC Okanagan, studying plant soil ecology. And I'm here because I decided to do Carpentries training because UBC in general is working to promote open science on campus. And I wanted to offer some sort of like training in data management skills to other grad students.
That's awesome.
I think that makes Eliza.
Hi, I'm Eliza Gerstein. I'm a still new assistant professor at the University of Manitoba. I'm joint appointed between microbiology and statistics. I'm a microbiologist, and so I have a very strong interest in learning how to best teach microbiologists and life scientists in general how they can gain computing skills as efficiently as possible.
Great.
Dan, if you're with us.
I don't see Dan in the column.
Rachel then? Is Rachel here?
I don't see Rachel.
Heather's here.
Hi, I'm Heather Ganshorn, and I'm a science librarian at the University of Calgary. Also, just was given responsibility for developing services around research data management. So I'm a newbie here and hoping Carpentries can help me out with that.
Perfect, welcome. Jennifer.
Hi, I'm also a science librarian at the University of Calgary, and I just did the Carpentries training last summer for the library Carpentries, so I'm hoping to do more with that.
Awesome.
Cher.
Well, Cher's on the list.
Yes, I am. Hey, everyone. I am Cher. I'm the, oh, wait, we had a conversation about this. I want to make sure I'm looking you in the eye when I speak to you. I am Cher. I'm the workshops and logistics manager for the Carpentry. So I work with the wonderful John and James to coordinate workshops. And I am also a trainer. I'm located in Detroit, Michigan. So I'm kind of close to some people in Canada.
Thanks, Cher. So Ross is here too.
So I am. Hi, I'm Ross Dixon. I'm like John and James. I'm on Compute Canada payroll, and I've been doing software carpentry stuff for several years now. Being at several removes now from my grad student days, I want to make sure I'm a resource and not a hindrance. So I thought I'd pop in.
Out in the East Coast.
Yeah, correct. I'm in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Thank you.
Thanks. And Martin. Oh, you're muted.
Okay. Hi. Bonjour. I'm Martin Jean. I'm from Montreal. I'm a plant ecologist, and I'm working at Environment and Climate Change Canada. As I told previously, I'm on the process of being a trainer. My last step is my life coach session later this afternoon. I'm particularly interested in data carpentry. I already gave non-official or unofficial training twice, and I have 2 planning for the rest of the year. And I'm particularly interested in providing or helping to provide the French version of Carpentries material.
Yeah, that's great, Martin. And Danielle, did Danielle Quinn already make an introduction?
Yeah, we had Danielle. Should be Roman or Kari.
No Roman, no Kari. Remy.
Hi, I am Remy Daigle. I'm a research associate at Laval University, but I'm physically based usually at Dalhousie University in Halifax. I'm a biological oceanographer, but a lot of the work that I do is more about data and modeling, and so the whole reproducible workflow that software carpentry and the Carpentries promotes is very important to me. So I became an instructor. I don't know how many years ago, but I've done workshops at UBC, SFU, Dalhousie, Acadia, a few throughout Canada, but I haven't done one in a while. So I figured I'd show up to this meeting.
Great, thanks. Ohane?
Yes, I'm Oyane. I'm one of the instructors in Newfoundland, and I'm a PhD candidate in computer engineering. And I studied the integration of drones into the Canadian aerospace. So my background is really technical, but I love the methodology of the Carpentries. I have been involved for, I would say, over a year now. And I'm here for 2 reasons. The first one is because recently I have been looking into different more volunteering opportunities within the Carpentries, and I think that this one was a really great chance for me to know what's happening, especially in Canada. And another reason is that over the last year, we have seen how the Newfoundland community has grown in Carpentries. I believe, from 3 or 4 instructors, we are now over 10, and we keep growing. So I would like to know also different ways to, try to keep encouraging people to be more involved, but not limit only to just instruct, like what other things instructors here in Newfoundland is a very big community, what they can do with the Carpentries.
Yeah, that's perfect. And Greg Wilson is here as well.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Greg Wilson. I've been involved with the Carpentries since the early days. I'm currently actually in the United States on business, but I'm fascinated to see how Carpentries continues to grow in Canada. I'm based in Toronto. I'll be doing instructor training for staff from the University of Toronto Library in, I believe we settled on late July. And I'm also going to be doing some training online for people in BC public libraries sometime in September.
All right, thanks, Greg. And then there's Erica. Not sure. Oh, I don't see Erica on the call. Oh, yep. There you are.
Hi, so my name is Erica Meas. I'm based in Toronto. I've recently come here from Cape Town, South Africa, and I'm a qualified instructor. So I think I've only been here just short of 3 months, so I'm quite excited to be part of the community here. And I'm involved in the Curriculum Advisory Committee for Library Carpentry, and I'm also one of the Library Carpentry lesson maintainers. So, and I've got quite a bit of experience with research data management, having worked at the University of Cape Town libraries. doing data management and so on. So if anybody wants to chat about that, I'm happy to do that.
No, this is great. Welcome. So I think we've gone through everybody in the list. If there's anybody else, you can just speak up now, but I think we got through everybody.
I joined a little bit late. Could I?
Yeah, what's your name?
My name's Dan Fornica.
Great.
And I'm a genomics specialist at the BC Centre for Disease Control. I've participated in some Software Carpentries events as a helper at SFU and UBC, and I've also done the online training, so I'm just working on finishing up some of the checkout procedures there. And I'm excited to bring some of the ideas and skills that from Software Carpentries to our site here and share some of the sort of GitHub and programming ideas at the Center for Disease Control.
That's great. Thanks, Dan. Yeah. Okay. So I'll get into a bit of a sort of a current state of Canadian Carpentries discussion, where we're at and where I see things moving forward. Now, the main thing is, as much as possible, what we want to allow moving forward is that new directions are coming from the instructor community and the researcher community particularly. So a couple of things just off the bat from the introductions. I want to say that there are very clear trajectories that are coming that have quite a bit of momentum, and this group seems to really represent them well. So one of the things that we really want to try and facilitate as administrators in Canada is opening up more opportunities to the trainers that are here currently. There's been a different model in Canada through the Compute Canada Federation that I think has partly led to there not being as many opportunities as might be in other countries because they're coming sort of in through a system that already exists. So one of the things that we really like to talk about is making more opportunities available for instructors that are trained. And the other things are major groups that are these sort of grassroots groups that are coming up and taking on building very strong communities. The libraries are very pronounced at this right now, where institution libraries in Canada are becoming ingrained in research production and building spaces for this. And the Carpentries seem to be a way of really, drawing the transdisciplinary groups from university institutions or whatever into a space and talking together. But outside of the academic institutions, big data in government agencies is a very big deal right now. And this is something we want to make sure that we can encourage and really foster that happening within those organizations. So these are definitely things I see us talking about as we get past this, but I don't want to influence that discussion too much. So in terms of what we're doing with the history of the Carpentries in Canada, I believe from 2016, the Compute Canada Federation partnered with the Carpentries. And the Compute Canada Federation is an umbrella organization around Canada Foundation for Innovation funded consortia that provide high performance computing resources free to all academic institutions in Canada. And what Compute Canada does with that funding is build computing hardware that's freely accessible, provide staff to support researchers, and a lot of that support is in the form of training. And back whenever this organization was kind of coming together in large groups to coordinate the different efforts across the country, it was clear that the Carpentries was an established model that could scale to the level that something like a Compute Canada Federation would have to provide in order to get more code literacy among all of the research groups that would eventually need high performance computing resources or advanced research computing resources. So that partnership happened in 2006, and part of that partnership is that John Simpson, who's here, and I would take on some of these administrative roles of dealing with the databases in the background and helping people set up new events and do that coordination, but also spend more time in recent modifications to the partnership to help grassroots organizations that were trying to establish their relationships with the Carpentries. So moving towards helping domain-specific groups establish their own content. So the partnership with the Carpentries also had another effect on Carpentries in Canada, in that the Compute Canada staff are located at several academic institutions across Canada. So we're distributed across the country, and we're at several institutions there. And a lot of the researchers who are struggling with the scope of their data changing, where the researchers and the students are requiring to know how to work from the command line to scale up their production, have oftentimes already been working with Compute Canada staff. And a lot of the requests for the Carpentries would come through those relationships that already existed with the Compute Canada staff. So this resulted in a lot of events being kind of self-organized through the Compute Canada staff. Now, what we're trying to do moving forward is making sure that opens up, that there's more of the general availability of new events being requested from outside the Compute Canada internal structure, and that there'll be more announcements for general events. So other things that have come from this is the Compute Canada Federation has done, we do a lot of training for high performance computing and advanced research computing. We had these long summer schools, but what we're starting to do now is adopt more and more the model of the Carpentries for teaching our researchers who are doing the transition to high performance computing. So we've started initiatives like the high performance computing carpentry. And we've also been working on sort of a central infrastructure for providing instructor training, which is mostly handled by John here. And the current state of where we're at, I think this speaks to a lot of the discussion that came up during or a lot of the points that came up during the introductions, is there are some main themes on how things are moving forward, particularly in Canada with the Carpentries. The first one is really community-driven initiatives. So it's been mentioned a couple times already, the library hubs for advanced research computing training. Here at my institution, I'm at Brock University, we have a digital scholarship lab that's about to open, and the Carpentries are an important part of how they initially plan to make sure that there's a transdisciplinary attendance in that space where we kind of initially start welcome everybody in. And the technical staff that have been trained there have quickly become instructors. And these sort of transdisciplinary spaces at research facilities, I think, is an important step forward, where graduate students from the computer sciences are constantly interacting and training with the specific research domain researchers. The other thing that we've been noticing, and I've been spending more time working with people on, are the research domain specific initiatives. In particular, neuroimaging for fMRI and EEG research is getting large amounts of funding that isn't directed towards a specific research project, but rather in establishing the infrastructure of expertise across the country. So there's a large number of groups in Canada that are coming together to establish neuroimaging carpentry, and this is an international partnership as well, where Canada is working on becoming a big contributor to that. This is also resulting in these groups establishing data standards and procedure standards to be able to provide more sort of high impact carpentry training in those modules. So trying to build these modules in these research domains is also really getting at some issues with data standardization in those fields. And there's an interesting play back and forth between the training and the standards establishment. And then the third point that also came up during the introductions is, beyond the traditional academic research institutions where, Compute Canada has been spending most of its time, the demand for big data analytics and scaling things beyond spreadsheets and things like this is really coming up in a lot of government agencies and other organizations that are trying to take advantage of the types of processing that we have the capacity of, both in terms of computational power, but also in terms of what we know how to train people within a reasonable amount of time. And I think the Carpentries are an important part of this sort of this extension beyond the academic institutions and really into other agencies like government agencies, anybody doing the big data analytics. So from that, and basically the end of my sort of pointing discussions is what we need to do and what we really want to do is foster and facilitate more of these community-driven events and initiatives in Canada. Try to identify and remove as many of the bottlenecks to make this happen as possible. And then, of course, always trying to create more connections and avenues for progress. And I think with that, what we'd like to do is sort of open it back up. I don't know if John wants to try and coordinate how we can have this happen, but we'd like to open up the discussion and perhaps do it in sort of a directed way. And John, do you know, you want to direct this?
Yeah, so we wanted to basically divide us up. We've done short introductions now. We're going to split up into smaller groups, and I'm hoping that Cher is going to be able to look after that with her Zoom room pilot capabilities, to just really split up into groups of roughly about 4, talk about these 3 questions, and then come back after about 10 minutes to talk as a whole about these questions. Our goal today is to really start making connections. So you're going to talk to some of the other people that are here, and then we'll come back together and share some ideas about how might we build things. Do you want to have Canada calls on a regular basis? Would it be helpful if we help kickstart some training things? Maybe there's a training opportunity in your area. Are you building some curriculum? Is there, I don't know. I don't know where it wants to go, and I don't want to lead it any farther than this hand gesturing stuff I want to do. But we know that it needs to come from a place other than the admin side, which is where James and I are mostly embedded. And so we're really looking for what's going to light a fire for you right now. So are you able to make rooms, Cher? Is that possible?
Just quick question. Am I doing it on region, or am I just doing just random?
If you could do region, that'd be fine. But if it's kind of randomy, that's okay too. We're Canadian. We like everybody in the country. We're good. Right?
Okay. Give me 1 minute.
Okay.
Okay. Meanwhile, I really have to go. So
you've got to go. So thank you, Martin.
Thank you very much, and I'm really looking forward for your discussion because I'm interested and I would like to contribute.
We will reach out as a follow-up. Is your email in the
yes.
Etherpad? Yeah,
yes.
Then we're good then.
Okay.
We'll
Thanks.
Catch up. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. And so just so we're waiting to kind of be broken up, are there any general thoughts that people might have? I don't know, Greg, you've kind of seen the whole arc here in Canada. If you want to jump in and pitch in anything, or you, Danielle, with your instructor stuff and what you're doing in Newfoundland, just as we wait for rooms.
All right, I'm about to put you in rooms.
She says bye. Okay, so you sent me to a room. I'll go to the room. You're going to be responsible for calling us back, right? Yeah, in about 10 minutes. I think you're still on mute. I can't hear you. I was practicing lip reading. I can't hear anything you're saying. That's perfect.
Wait a minute. I'm just talking.
I know.
No, I said you can. So you want to do 10 minutes, or you just want to Slack me when you think it's
Probably 10 minutes is probably good.
okay?
Right, and then that gives us a little bit of time to come back and just have people to share, and then try to figure out what we want to do next. Right.
Okay. And they're not regional; they're random because it would have taken too long.
You weren't doing it from the beginning, slowly crafting the rooms. You're just pulled in by James's words, his eloquence. All right.
What happened? Wait a minute. I thought that you was like doing the first slides or something. I said, oh.
That's exactly what I thought. And then, because James yesterday was so down and like his head, and he was like so focused doing other stuff, and he's like, I can't. So we talked this morning. It's like, I think he was just feeling really nervous about it, and so his way to get over that was just to do it. So he's like, I'll start and I'll bring you in if I need you. And I'm like, okay.
Oh, okay. I was like, wait a minute. I thought John was doing that.
I did too.
Okay.
And I thought it was great. I didn't need to do anything.
It's been going good.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. I will see you in 9 minutes. Yeah.
we have returned.
Looks like we're all coming back to the main room. I was wondering how I was going to get back here, and it just sent me back.
It's like magic.
No worries. I got you, James.
I, for one, welcome our new video conferencing overlay.
I got into the other room, and I was like, I don't know how I'm going to get back. And here we are. Thanks, Cher.
So we're back. If we could have people from each of the groups just kind of share what they're talking about. And to twist the filters to this, what would you like to see in the Canadian Carpentries?
I'm sorry, I can't hear John at all.
Yeah, John, something's going on with your mic, buddy.
Yeah, listen.
All right. So where we're going with that is if we could have somebody maybe from each group to sort of represent what it was you were talking about. See if we can take out some main issues here. Have any volunteers to start it off?
Right, I'm back.
Oh, there we go.
You can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I think somebody else is trying to talk and there's another mic issue.
I think Greg had his hand raised to go.
Do you want me to jump in? Sure. So I would like to propose that we run workshops simultaneously next May for all of the NSERC USRA students at our universities. For Cher's benefit, USRA is like the NSF REU program. It gives undergraduates a summer working in a research lab. They get paid for it. A very large proportion of Canadian graduate students have done a USRA as undergrads at some point. Something like, yeah, undergraduate summer research assistant. Thanks, Ross. At one point, I think the number was 75 to 80% of Canadian graduate students have done USRAs. So they're at a point in their careers where this training will make a real difference. It gives us something to build towards as a community. I think that if we were going to do something like this at 20 universities across Canada, we could go back to NSERC and they would pay attention. And I think that it would make for a real interesting experiment because we could track those people over the following 2 or 3 years and see, are they more likely to go to grad school? Are they more likely to make use of HPC facilities? Essentially, they're the treatment group, and the control group is all the kids that didn't get it, or all the kids that are going through the program this year where we're not running these workshops. I think we could collect some really interesting data on outcomes. And I think it'd be kind of splashy to say we're doing a simultaneous Atlantic to Pacific to maybe Arctic Ocean set of workshops all in 1 week in May.
I think that'd be a really cool way of getting new graduate students like up to speed on data management and reproducibility, because that's sort of where I'm coming from with my department, in that people come into it with all these different backgrounds and half of them have never used R before, and it's like trying to get everyone together. And yeah, getting that training in the USRA before they even get to that stage would just help out. They would have a good solid foundation. So I think that's a cool idea.
We in Compute Canada, we could support that with various sites, right? And what I wanted to not happen though is for us to actually lead it, because we would end up doing the same kind of bottlenecking we currently do. But we could be there in the background or throw in instructors to help on those teams.
I'd suggest that if we agree to do this, then come September, we could approach NSERC for a little bit of money, because the USAA program is one of NSERC's crown jewels. They're very, very proud of it. So if we need a bit of stipend for a grad student to do the coordination work starting in September leading up to May, it's a few $1,000s for NSERC. Helps take the burden off us for advertising and recruitment and coordination and who's doing what, where, and when. I can't see them saying no if there's 20 universities approach them at the same time, and HPC Canada and others have come in and say, yeah, we think this is a good idea. Whether we could on that time scale also get some money to give to the Carpentries to support the assessment effort is another question, because I think that we'd have to write some sort of grant proposal. And I have no idea whether there's a program this would fit into, but we could at least get the ball rolling.
I think stipends for graduate students would be really important. So I gave a workshop, an official workshop this year, and I happened to have a co-op student who could fit in as like my helper in the room. But I can't ask a grad student to give up 2 days of their research time. Their advisor will not be happy, and they won't be happy. They need to be compensated, I think, at least at my school.
I think this is where having communities at institutions is really helpful, because at least then if a graduate student does really want to help out, but like you said, can't take 2 whole days, you know, they could say, all right, well, I can teach this one module and that's probably all I can commit, but that's enough. And so certainly like identifying institutions where there's enough current instructors that they can really spread the work out among them might be important.
Yeah, the power in numbers, I think, is an important part of the model.
But maybe this is the impetus for building capacity in all these places. As we say, this is what we're leading up to, and then you get 12 people to sign up for training, as long as the capacity exists to train all these new people. But that would probably work at where I am anyways.
And it also has a benefit of being far enough away that people are like, oh, next May I could do that. And it's pretty focused on one thing, right? It's not like, oh, sign up for a carpentry instructor and do training every month. It's like, we're going to do one thing next May, but we're going to do it in a lot of places and gather that groundswell together. And even if a few places, you know, they're like a week later or whatever, it's kind of in that same zone. It's got momentum, it's got mass.
It'll have its own logo.
I like this idea only because it definitely helps strengthens community. And I would definitely like to see this piloted and to encourage other communities, because we do have other communities who, you know, want to get involved, who wants to have, you know, organizations who want to do things, but may not, you know, be able to commit to all of the things or commit to, you know, so much time. But having a group in which, you know, you can say, I can give an hour here or whatever the case may be. Having that and saying, oh, you know what, I can say, you know what, Canada's doing something similar, and you may want to look at their motto, which would be phenomenal.
The world needs more Canada.
Okay, so we have one strong candidate. Other things that other groups had talked about or mentioned or just ideas that they're kicking around that can either fit with this or totally divergent, other ways that we can grow our strength here in Canada.
I guess this isn't necessarily that, this isn't something that my group had time to talk about, but I did want to bring up is just a better way of finding out where other instructors are in Canada. I know we have the Amy database, but I don't know if it's just me, but I find it really hard to figure out where people are and, you know, what institutions have instructors and things like that. So I don't know if there's just a better way of communicating between instructors, whether it's a Slack channel or a different database, or I don't know.
Yeah, actually, I'd be interested to know, to have an actual summary of all of the resources that are available for this kind of thing, because I find the same thing whenever I'm seeking out, I find it hard to find.
I would recommend definitely utilizing an email list or a Slack channel. The thing with that is, you know, everyone has to opt into it. We do get a lot of requests of people saying, oh, I'm trying to find out, you know, can you give me a list of instructors who are in Canada, or, you know, wherever the case may be. And because of GDRP, elemental P, I am not able to do that. But once someone is opted into a group, you know, and even utilize and discuss, but I would definitely recommend utilizing a local group that will allow everyone, once people opt in, to, you know who's what. And once you're in that group, you can see all of the names.
So for those of you on the call today, would being on a Slack, is there a preference between, say, an email list or a Slack channel, or we could just try both and see which one sticks, and we'd send you individual emails to see if you wanted to opt in? Are there other things like that? We could all just email share individually and say, please pass this on.
Slack is my preference. Anything that keeps stuff away from my inbox is my preference.
Yeah, inboxes are scary right now.
Yeah, I was going to say it didn't matter much to me. Probably picking one and going with it is, I think, might be better than trying both simultaneously, because you'll get divided attention. So yeah, that was 2 votes for Slack, and no one's saying anything else. So there,
Yeah,
do
email.
I have a question. So I don't really have a preference for a particular platform, and yeah, I was just wondering, if we do decide on an email list or a Slack channel, is it going to go onto the admin page? So when people look up to see who's the admin, who are the admins for in Canada, that they can see there's an option to connect to a Slack channel? Because I think that would be a nice way for people who are, like myself actually, who came here and was wondering how to get involved. And I could find your email and the other admin's email, but it would be nice to have that extra link just to sign into Slack or add my name to an email list.
That is awesome. And I will see what I can do to get that added to the Canada portal.
So, Chair, how do you see this being implemented then?
I would say a couple of things. I'm actually working on behind the scenes, the workshop side of the website. But up until then, we do have the, each region has their regional coordinator portal. And so we could have where you guys are located and your email address. We could also have a, connect or join the local listing and just have a link connect to the topic for people to opt in to join.
And then we would just send out the announcements to the regional list that's available. Okay.
And I'm not the infrastructure, so I will take this idea to the infrastructure and let them figure out what will be the best way of how to look, and but we will make sure that we have for each region, actually, which this is a great idea, making sure that it's linked on your regional page.
Yeah.
So we're coming down to the end of time here. Would another quick call like this be helpful in a month or so, particularly if it had some focus around thinking through what would be involved in this USRA thing, and any of the other ideas that you might pop up in the back of your head between now and then? My question is, should we have another call in the next month or two? Would that be helpful for people here? Okay.
Yeah, I think particularly if we can establish the clear guidelines for increasing the communication channels, so facilitating what's been discussed here about having clearer communication channels, it'd be great to have a meeting after that about how we should open these communication channels now.
Okay. Well, nobody's saying no more meetings. Greg left, but I assume that's not because he was disinterested. So we'll avoid trying to find a time now, but we'll try to look for a similar time to this. So maybe on a Wednesday, maybe around noon Central, and do it at the end of June, beginning of July, before the summer really kind of rolls through, and give us time to set up for September if we're going to go to NSERC. And I can perhaps do some poking around in the back there with some of our connections there to see what might be possible. So.
Before we go, can I don't want to interrupt, it's like a different tangent, but there's a deadline coming up, so I wanted to say it in this meeting. The deadline for submitting venues for CarpentryCon 2020 has been extended. I'm not on the task force this year, but I've been following things that have been happening. So it has been extended to the end of the month. I did put a bid in for Newfoundland. I don't know if it has a shot, but the rest of you being across Canada, if you want to bring CarpentryCon to your city, I think it'd be really fun to have it in Canada.
Awesome.
If you want to augment your bid, talk to Craig, and you can get some Compute Canada support there if that means anything.
Okay, I will talk to him. Thanks.
Yeah. I would love to put in a bid for Edmonton. I haven't been paying attention to those emails. I won't be able to pull it off by the end of the month. So if they extend it again, I'll give you a position. Otherwise, go Danielle. Another pitch, we also have Canadian instructor training. So as part of Compute Canada's partnership with the Carpentries, part of it is James and I doing some of the admin work, but we also get a number of seats that we can offer instructor training for. And rather than just offer those internally, we open them up to everyone. And then Danielle and I find a time where that will work for us. And I'm just looking for the exact dates for that. It's June
10th and 11th.
June 10th and 11th. We haven't sent out the big blast of signups for this yet, but that's coming. So if you know of other people that would like to be badged instructors, it's coming. It'll be online training. It's based around Central Time, so it's probably, well, except for Eliza, it's targeted for you because you're in the perfect place in Canada, so Central. But the rest of us have some time zone shifts. But other than that, people are welcome, and we'll do it again in the fall. We do it twice a year.
How do people sign up for that? Do they email you or?
There's a listing on the Carpentries page, and they can just sign up for that. But we will push this announcement out to the people who signed up today I'm assuming you see, she's nodding her head, sure, she opted in. And the other people on our lists who have done it before. And so you'll see it come around. So there's some final thoughts people would like to share with Cher or with us. Going once, going twice, 3 times. We'll find a time and we'll see you in probably a little over a month. So thank you all very much.
Awesome. Thank you for organizing this.
Yes, thank you to the people who organized this. It wasn't really me, so a lot of magic behind the scenes.
Bye.
Take care, everyone.